to Business Ethics, Walk the Talk. I am your host, Blake Peterson. Thank you so much for joining me for yet another season. This is our 4th season doing the podcast. When we started it, I wasn't really sure where it was going to go, but I am so grateful for the team of people that have not only believed and helped in me and my dream of getting this podcast rolling, but obviously continuing to help us get better and better guests and hopefully bring more and more value to our listeners. And of course, thanking the most important people, you, the listeners, for tuning in. Thank you so much. We keep on seeing our listeners just grow. Our streaming keeps on going up. The downloads keep increasing, and seeing you all, reaching out to me on LinkedIn, telling me about how you enjoy the podcast and keeping on listening to it, downloading. That's the reason we do it, and that's why we've kept on so long. So thank you, thank you, thank you. This is the first episode of our 4th season, and I'm so excited for you to hear our guest, John Fulwider, PhD. He is an executive coach, business consultant, and a fantastic human being. So we're going to talk today about building the perfect executive team and leadership team to help take your business to the next level, what that looks like, the various questions and issues you may have along the way. And I hope you find some value in this. And I hope if it resonates with you and it's something you think that you could use some more work on, you reach out to someone like John to get some help from him and maybe, take your business to the next level. But thanks so much for listening. I hope you guys keep on tuning in and enjoy the show. Thank you all for joining us again for another episode of Business Ethics, Walk the Talk, 4th season, the first guest of the 4th season. I'm very, very excited to bring to you all a good friend of mine. Actually, we just kind of connected recently, and I'm so happy that we did. Mr. John Fulwider, PhD. I've been specifically told to not call him Dr. John, but we absolutely need to make sure everyone knows this gentleman is, very accredited. Thank you very much for joining me, John. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be here, man.
Thanks for inviting me, and it's an honor to be guest number 1 of the 4th season.
I know, the best season yet. That's what we're calling it, at least. So don't let us down, man. This is the first one.
Yes.
So it'll be good. Well, so John, you are an executive coach. Obviously, now you've been doing that for 14 years. You have worked with various different sizes of companies ranging from 4 to 6,500 employees. You've helped people obviously scale their business, increase their revenue, become on their way to exit planning a business. You help them with that process. You've been with business owners of all different types. And today, of course, we're going to talk a little bit about creating your executive team, right? And how you want to put that together, whatever those different goals you may have in mind. How do you put the right team together to get you there? But I'd love to start with just a little bit of backstory about you, John. Tell people a little bit about where you're from and how you ended up becoming an executive coach, a business consultant.
Yeah, I'm from nowhere and everywhere. My father was in the Air Force. We moved every 3 years, so I've lived in Germany twice, lived in Virginia, Florida, Texas, Nebraska twice, actually. And I'm now a lifelong Nebraskan, been living here 10 times longer than I've lived anywhere else, so it's home.
Yeah, there you go. Native, I'd say. You can claim it.
Yes.
You got it.
That's right.
And from Lincoln, Nebraska now, and obviously you have a family there, raising your family in Lincoln, Nebraska, and that's where you primarily household your business, but you work with business owners from all over. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. That's the great thing about executive coaching, right? It can be done by phone, it can be done in person, can be done by Zoom. What we're aiming to do is give you exactly the help and support that you need amid the crazy whirlwind of the day-to-day of running a fast-growing business.
Absolutely. And how did you end up falling into executive coaching? Because, of course, we're talking before the podcast. You have a long history of doing multiple things. You've worked. Now you're a business owner yourself. You have scaled a business yourself.
Yes.
Up to a level, of course, that you want to keep on growing. But before that, that wasn't exactly how it started. So let's give the people some background on how you got here.
Yeah, I've always loved business. When I was a kid, I read 2 sections of the newspaper. I read the comics and I read the business section, right? And I went through a number of different transitions in my life that, as I look back on them, they all were moving in an entrepreneurial direction, right? Where entrepreneurial direction is defined as, whatever I do, the risks I take to create value for other people, that writes my ticket, right? My own risk taking, my own innovation, right? My own grit and determination. So first off was a newspaper reporter, right? The way to get ahead in newspapering is to write better articles, right? And so I got better and better at that, had a number of different really cool jobs in newspaper journalism. Next up was teaching political science. And the way of getting ahead in political science is to write better and teach better. And that allows you to write your own ticket as well. And then while I was in graduate school, my mentor, Denise Bulling, handed me my first consulting client. So I didn't get started in executive coaching. I got started in consulting. And she said, hey, John, that research that you're doing for your master's thesis, the federal government requires state governments to do that thing every year. You should sell them that as a package, and here's your first client. Right. And I said, well, gosh, Denise, thank you. That's really generous of you. And so, referrals bounced back and forth between states and everything. Eventually, one of those consulting contracts got subcontracted to a not-for-profit organization. And in working with them, I really began to discover, without understanding what executive coaching was, that I was better at, and they got more value from me coaching them to arrive at the answer on their own, right? And do the work themselves, versus a consultant's role, which is to give them the answer and to do some or all of the work for them.
Yeah, that's a great point, right? So it's kind of a culmination of all the skills you gathered on your way here that kind of led you into the executive coaching role. Yeah. And the teaching aspect is probably still prominent in what you're doing today. You're probably doing a lot of educating.
Absolutely. I do more and more of it every day. I've modified my practice a lot in recent months and recent years to give me large swaths of space to write and to teach.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now, you are focusing absolutely on executives now. You're trying to work with leadership teams, and you've done a lot of work with leadership teams in the past, right?
Yes.
And creating them. So what is it that you think is so important about having the right leadership team in place, perhaps maybe early on in a business, more so than when we get there, we'll worry about it? What do you think is important about putting those pieces in place now?
It goes to more freedom, opportunity, and satisfaction for the business owner, and then more opportunity for everyone that the business owner employs. All of the employees, the hundreds of minivan and mortgage payments, the suppliers, the vendors, the partners, the other stakeholders, the customers, they all benefit from a business owner being freed up to work in their unique ability and pursue only those things that the business owner uniquely can do. I call the business owner the CEO, the creator of economic opportunity. That's the business owner's number one job. And when the owner is freed up to create economic opportunity, freed up by a leadership team that consists of what I call true executives, everyone benefits.
Yeah, that's such a great point, that really the leader, the person who start the business, at least I notice with a lot of business owners I work with, you're wearing a ton of hats as things get going, and you have to initially, right? There's not a lot of cash on hand. You need to make sure you're scrappy. You probably have to learn a lot of these pieces on the way so that when you are managing people, you have a basic understanding of what they're doing, at least. So what do you find? You know, I reach out to you. I'm like, John, I need some help. I don't know what it is. I'm stressed out. I'm worked to the max. I know I can grow this business. The opportunity's there, but I keep finding myself, I'm not tapping into it. Like, what do you find most of these business owners are doing that's preventing them from, taking this step? Why do they have to get in touch with you in the first place? Why are they not, figuring this out on themselves, of their own?
Yeah, they're hanging on to the vine too tightly and not letting go. So there's a story of a visionary entrepreneur, right? Someone who has great plans for changing the world, right? By creating value for customers and employees and their community. The entrepreneur's walking along, ridge line, looking up and to the right, into the distance, as entrepreneurs tend to do, when suddenly falling, right? Grabs onto a vine for dear life, 1,000 feet off the deck, 1,000 feet from the cliff edge, right? Things are looking precarious. And our entrepreneur is not a person of faith, but in a rare moment of religion, looks up to the sky and says, "Is there anybody up there?" And to the entrepreneur's great astonishment, a voice billows down from the cloud and says, "Do you believe?" Entrepreneur's hanging on, right? Vine's tensile strength is kind of questionable. Arms are sweaty, biceps failing. And he says, "What do I have to lose?" Yes, I believe. Yeah. Then let go of the vine. Is there anybody else up there?
Right.
And so most business owners, they do not have a leadership team consisting of true executives. And so it is a bad idea to let go of the vine, because you will fall through a hole in the net and die, right? Your executive team, when it's composed of true executives, as I define them, is kind of like the fireman's, God, I can't even remember the name of it, but you know what I'm talking about, the fireman's trapeze or blanket, right, that they stretch out, in the old time movies.
Yeah, they catch you when you're falling.
They catch you when you're falling, right? And when you don't have the major functions of your business owned by true executives, people who function as mini CEOs of their division, their department, run it like they were the CEO of that departmental company. When you don't have that, there's holes in the net. And it's a dumb idea to let go of the vine in that situation, because you'll fall to your horrible screaming death.
Absolutely. Gosh, that makes a lot of sense. So they're holding onto the vine too tightly. They're afraid to let go. There's not someone there that can actually assist them if they do let go. So you say that a true executive, as you define it, let's define it. What does that mean to be a true executive? Right.
So let's talk about what they would be the true executive of. So every business owner thinks that their business is unique. They're wrong, right? Every business owner's business consists of three major functions: get work, do work, and get paid.
Right.
Now, there's various, industry standard terms for what each of those means. Get work, that's marketing and sales, right? Do work, that's operations. Get paid, that's finance and administration. We need to have a CEO of that function, right? Someone who takes complete ownership of inputs, outcomes, results, right? The profit and loss statement for their division. And further, they need to work really well with the owners of the other major functions of the business. And when they do, they kind of weave together this fireman's net that catches the business owner when they let go of the vine and frees them up to do the one major thing we want the business owner to own, which is the next opportunity.
Right.
Build a team of people who execute with excellence on the current opportunity, and you are free to go after the next opportunity.
Yeah, and it makes so much sense. So the executive needs to be someone who not only is passionate about what they're leading, but also has a great understanding about it. And I think that you'll find a lot of business owners, and for good reason, right? There's some people who you've brought onto the business who've helped you so much along the way. And so maybe you're thinking about putting them into one of these executive roles, but you find yourself having to teach them what that role is because they've never done it before. They
Yes.
came on at first, they're a salesman, and now they're moving into some kind of a manager role, managing the salespeople. Now they're going to be trying to do, now, is that person going to be the CFO just because they're the next up in line and that's the first position you fill? Maybe they're pretty good with numbers and that's where you're going to put them. So what are the pitfalls of doing something like that, for instance, and just trying to, I mean, there's a place for loyalty. There's a place for obviously hiring from within. There's a lot of good and bad to that. But what have you found with all the, you've worked with a lot of business owners, you've worked with a lot of executive teams. I'm sure you've seen both sides of the coin.
Yeah.
So what happens when I decide to just stick to that loyalty and maybe put someone in a position that they're not ready for?
The biggest pitfall is the one you've already implied, which is underpowered people. Business owners are tremendously loyal to their early employees, to the people who have been with them for the longest. And it's completely understandable. Founding and growing a business when there's a 95% failure rate in getting past, $1 million in revenue is one of the hardest things you can imagine. It's like biting and scraping and crawling for every inch of forward progress. It's kind of like climbing a rock wall with just your fingernails and having the fingernails like torn out and bloody, like at the beds. And so people who have been there and done that with you, you have understandable loyalty to them. And in order to get to the next level, it takes a level of discipline and knowledge and growth that some people are unable or unwilling to provide to you. And often it's the case, Doug Tatum, an author, makes the argument in his book No Man's Land that there is the need to bring in an outside expert who has taken a company like yours from, say, 25 to 50 million and wants to do it again, right? There's tremendous value in bringing in a person who has done it before and has made all their mistakes on somebody else's dime.
Right.
Here's the thing. Let's talk about a business owner who founded the business. That business owner has reached 25 million, which is an incredible world-class accomplishment.
Yes.
Like, nobody gets there, right? The statistics are just eye-popping how few people make it there. So tremendous success. And you, the founder, you know what you've not done before? You've not built a business from 25 to 50.
Right.
There are, this is an approximation, 1 mega squidoodle of people who have.
Right.
And they want to do it again, right? They don't want to go from 0 to 25. They don't want to go from 100 to 250. They like the 25 to 50 range. So why not bring in somebody who loves to do and is great at that? I'll drop one other book reference, Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy's book, Who Not How, right? The book argues that when something hard needs done, like figuring out how to get from 25 to 50 million, don't figure out how to do it yourself. Rather, find a who already knows how to do it and is great at it. And when you do, you'll enjoy more freedom from working in your unique ability, and so will the who.
Right. And it makes a lot of sense. I can see a lot of potential as well if you just decide, and of course, hiring from within, staying loyal, but what if you put that person in a position they're probably more inclined to accept? They probably want to make more money. They want to make you happy. They want to continue on their role, their progress of the company. And quite frankly, that progress in a company is probably not clearly defined.
Yes.
Right? When you're a small business, it's not like a corporate ladder where they're like, hey, look at how far you can go. We really don't know. This is the next step. This is my opportunity. I'm going to take it. And then you're in this role and you find out you don't like doing it. You're kind of stuck in it at that point, right? They're not doing the best job. They're not enjoying it as much. Maybe that star employee, all of a sudden their shine starts to fade a little bit. And what have you done to them? What is your responsibility in that hire and moving them to that position in their failure, right? Especially if you're not able to coach and train them because, to your point, you haven't done it yourself, right? So you're speaking about, perhaps a fractional executive or an outsourced executive, bringing them in. What has been your experience with doing something like that? Is the hiring process, you mentioned how there's so many people who have done it before. Are these people just out there waiting for it? Are you kind of poaching them from other companies in order to find people to do it? How do you go out and find these individuals who have been there, done that, and then can now replicate it for your company?
Fractional and interim executives would be the easiest to find, right? So there are people that you can get for the firepower required to take a $25 million company to $50 million. It can sometimes cost more than the business owner of the $25 million company thinks they can afford, right? Yeah. We're talking 200, 300, 400 base plus benefits,
right,
and so on and so forth, probably more than an executive's been paid in that company ever, right? Well, you can get someone who has been there and done that before and is in there and doing that for multiple companies simultaneously for a fraction of the time at a commensurate fraction of the price.
Right.
And there's so many options for fractional executives that if you can't find one who would fit your specific need, forgive me, you're just not trying hard enough or you're doing it wrong.
Right.
Interim executives can also be a good option, right? An interim executive is someone who maybe can come in and provide the firepower that you need in that seat, as well as train up their internal successor. You were using that example of loyalty to a longtime employee. Right. Maybe your longtime controller does not have the firepower to be your CFO, right? To really offer financial strategy, cash management, mergers and acquisitions, help that you'll need to grow through acquisition, which is one of the best ways to do it, by the way. And you just love your controller, right? Bring in a fractional or an interim CFO who does have the firepower and have them mentor your controller.
Yeah, that's a great way to stay loyal and try to avoid that pitfall, like you said, where obviously there's no one beneath you in case they fall, in case they fail. When you're, there's a lot that people talk about, of course, a company's culture. And so the people you bring in from the outsourced area, making sure that they still fit that. Do you think that has ever been an issue you find? Is it just a part of the hiring process that you're going to face with any employee, a little bit of a risk you might take if you both aren't on the same page with expectations and whatnot? Because I could imagine one of these interim or fractional CEOs, CFOs, they probably all have, an idea, like you said, they have a knowledge of what to do to get there, but how they decide to do it or how they've done it in the past may not fully align with your company's goals and values at the current position. So how have you seen those relationships and that piece of the puzzle come together with companies you've worked with in the past?
I've seen it work well and I've seen it work poorly. I'll start with the poorly part after I state that you must have an absolute core values fit with any outsourced person, whether it's a fractional executive, an interim executive, a consultant. Later on, as you develop out your core values and culture, you can even apply them to vendors, suppliers, partners, and so forth. But anyone like a fractional executive or an interim executive, by nature of executive, right, they're going to be on your leadership team. And as Gino Wickman says in his book, Traction, as goes the leadership team, so goes the rest of the company, right? So let's say you've got an outsourced CFO. They're going to lead the finance function in your business. They're going to have your finance people reporting to them. And if they are not an exemplar of your core values behaviors, if they don't behave according to your values on a day-to-day basis, they're going to be a cancer eating away at your business from within, and you're going to have to cut that cancer out.
Right.
So here's the thing. There's absolutely no excuse for not having a 100% core values fit with an outsourced person like a fractional or interim executive, because, as I indicated, there's so many of them.
Right.
You will be able to find a perfect core values match. When you don't, though, and I've been in the room with fractional executives who are not a core values fit, it's going to be oil and water. Right. It's going to be sand in the gears. It's going to be slowness, resistance, lack of accountability, lack of support for the direction that you want to take the company, not really owning the function, and
yeah,
it just stinks.
Absolutely. Well, that's the case for anybody you might hire, right? And if they have more and more responsibility, it only affects everyone else along the way just a little bit more, and that can be dangerous in any organization. When we are thinking, okay, so if I am just a business owner, it's our first time putting together an executive team, we've done a pretty good job of it, I think, and you come to find out these employees who have done so much for you along the way, that executive is toxic, that executive is putting out some kind of a culture change that is negative. And let's say that they're doing their job well, though, right? They're doing their job well from a number standpoint, a performance standpoint. They're doing everything that you want in terms of growth. Is there a time, what do you suggest to your business owners out there as far as working with those kinds of situations where, yes, the results are there, but goodness, everybody underneath them is just hating their life.
Yeah.
And so what do you do with those people?
That's the hardest kind of person to fire, and the most important person to fire. So think of a 2x2 matrix, right? Where in the upper right, it's your climbers. Those are your A players who are top performers and culture fits. In the top left, those are your campers, right? You love them, but they've kind of settled. Their performance is low, but their culture is high.
Right.
We also call those people puppy dogs, right?
Yeah.
Because, what happens when you get home from work? You see a puppy dog. Oh, man, jumping all over you, loves you, cute and cuddly, but what else do they do?
Might pee on your carpet.
They pee the floor.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
Lower right-hand corner, this is what we're talking about. Those are the cranks. High performance, low on culture, low on behaving according to your core values.
Yeah.
They're getting results, but they're doing it in a way that is poisoning your internal culture, right? It is leading your A players to quit, which is something that you can't put up with considering how hard A players are to find, right? And man, they're probably also alienating some of your customers, vendors, suppliers. You've got to make a change, but classic example is the real rainmaking, hard driving salesperson, right?
Of course.
Oh my gosh, so much revenue accounted to this person. Oh my gosh, it's going to be so painful. Blake, I have coached 48 business owners. I have worked with hundreds of leadership team members who reported to these business owners in these 48 teams, and no business owner has ever regretted making a change there. And they all had that same list of, oh my gosh, what will people think? What are our customers going to think? What are our vendors and suppliers? What's the fellow employees going to think? What are we going to do about the lost revenue?
Yeah.
Man, none of the bad stuff that was predicted happened.
Right.
And unexpected good stuff. Because, I told them this would happen, but they weren't really listening until it actually happened. Like 15 minutes after you do it, employees start flooding into your office saying, boss, what took you so long?
Right.
Because everybody else knows.
Mm-hmm.
And they know that you're tolerating that level of behavior. And when you're talking out of one side of your mouth about, man, our core values and our strong culture, and yet they see you tolerating this crank, hey, understandably, their hypocrisy meter starts to go off.
Right.
And people will only let their hypocrisy meter redline for so long before they go in search of another place, another workplace where what people say and how they act are actually aligned.
Yeah, you make so many good points there, right? And you're right. The example of the salesman who may be producing a lot of revenue, but potentially doing it in a way that doesn't align with your culture, the risk that can come from that down the road is exponential compared to whatever they've done for you as far as revenue growth, right? Especially if it comes out and you find out, holy cow, this person's been skimming off the top. I know I've heard many stories from very small business owners, right? These aren't all huge companies selling expensive products. Perhaps you're just someone who runs a workout studio, something of that. You find out your best teacher brings in the most people. They've been cooking the books. They've been burning you. They've been finding a way to take a little bit off the top this whole time. Servers at restaurants, for instance, at times, right? I had a couple of restaurants I worked at where those coffees that they sold get deleted from the line item after they sell out the cash ticket, right? There's an extra $2 they're taking all the time. And you're like, well, they always find a way to sell the most food, and I'm not losing that much money. I mean, I've seen business owners actually have that kind of a conversation with themselves and convince themselves it is okay. While meanwhile, the people who are sweeping and mopping the floors, filling the salt shakers, doing everything else, they see it happening and they're upset. You're going to find a new place to go. You're going to lose everyone else on the way. And that person who's skimming a little off the top, they can't wait to leave you too. Yes. Right? As soon as they get an opportunity to go and screw somebody else over, for lack of a better term, they're going to do it. Right? So, it's all a conversation about ethics here and how those ethics all align. And so, especially when it comes to this executive team, and you mentioned about the loyalty that, of course, we've talked about it many times, the loyalty these business owners have to their current employees. They might say, John, I can't bring myself to not move this person up into the executive role because of what they've done for me. I've made these assurances to them in the past when they were much smaller, before that business owner understood what it actually is going to take to get to the next level. And here we are. Now I'm at this position. I feel like I owe it to this person. How do you manage those conversations? How do you deal with that I don't know what you would call it, that hurdle with a business owner? How do you rip that Band-Aid off and do what's right for the business and not what's necessarily the easy thing to do?
You talk about it. The business owner talks about it with trusted advisors openly and honestly and at length, right? Until achieving clarity about what needs to be done and making a decision, right? The way to get past, the chaos of delaying a decision that you need to make is to get clarity on all the factors. So clarify how important loyalty is to you. Clarify where you want this business to go. Clarify the amount of firepower that you need in order to get there. Clarify what are the different ways that you could acquire that firepower. And look, clarify in your own mind how long you're willing to wait. Because, here's the thing. I talk about getting the firepower right now, essentially, because I myself am a visionary entrepreneur who wants it yesterday, right? Yeah. I am the type of visionary entrepreneur who will turn right at a stoplight and take a inefficient route to get to this diagonal road over here because I can't stand to be stopped in my forward motion, right? So now there may be business owners who balance out the speed and amount of growth that they want in order to bring someone along. And if you want to do that, man, find the support for that method and go for it, please.
Yeah.
If that's what you want to do. The great thing about being a business owner is you can do, within the bounds of ethics, right, and laws and so forth, just about anything you darn well want. That's what's amazing about business ownership and entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And so if you want to go slow, by all means, make a fully informed decision and get support to do that.
Right. It makes so much sense. And that's just it. It's not always about growth. I mean, if you're in a publicly traded company, I'm sorry, you do have to deal with that, right? There's expectations on you. But if you're privately held, which are, I'm assuming, almost everybody that you've worked with, right, and including myself, you have that option. And you have to wrestle with that. You have to come to terms with that yourself. You can't have your cake and eat it too all the times in that case. You might have to decide, listen, I want to achieve this goal, but this goal is just simply out of reach right now. We need to spend our time over here because of my answers to those questions you brought up, because of the clarity I've gained after working through this. And what do you ever, I guess, give the advice to business owners to be more open with their employees? I mean, there's a lot of times in which it's an example, you don't want your kids to know when money's tight. You don't want them to know that mom and dad can't buy this and that. So you maybe try to find a way to do whatever you can to make sure they're happy, right? The same thing could happen to business owners and their employees. I don't want them to know that the troubles that might be happening behind the scenes. I don't want them to know that right now, if we don't get growth in some areas, there's a risk that none of us have a job here a couple years from now, right? Do you ever encourage them business owners who are struggling, going through the hard times? It's not just, oh man, we're growing so fast, this is fantastic, let's do it. No, the hard times. Do you encourage them to be open and honest with their employees, to let them know, hey, this is where we're at, these are the inherent risks, and if I don't make X and Y decision, this is what can potentially happen? Is that something you promote?
I do encourage them to be open and honest and transparent with their employees. One of the reasons why is that employees will make discretionary effort when they know winning the game is on the line. Unfortunately, the way most businesses are run without a system, run without peer group support from fellow business owners, run without executive coaching and the specialized training that's available just for business owners. It is you're kind of playing a game where no one but you knows the boundaries of the field. No one but you, let's use American football as an example, nobody but you knows where the hash marks are, right? Each 10-yard gain. Nobody knows what a touchdown, a safety, a field goal is worth. And they're playing a game without a scoreboard. And how boring is that? How unengaging is that? You see it with kids, right? When kids are, just kicking a ball around, they act one way. But when there's a score and rules and a goal, they act a different way. Everybody's seen this, right?
Absolutely.
You know it to be true. And so simply sharing with your employees, from your executive team all the way down to the individual contributor, what winning means is a big step forward. And the cool thing is that there are business operating systems like Traction, Pinnacle, Scaling Up, 4DX, System and Soul, and a long list of others that show you exactly how to do this. And then that part about giving discretionary effort. What do we see in inspiring sports movie after sports movie, right? It's halftime. The coach says, folks, it's not looking good, right? And then they get inspired, they give that extra 10%, and the team comes from way behind and wins.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't know to give the extra 10% unless they were told, oh, things are looking a little shaky.
Yeah.
We need to come together and win.
Right. That openness can be your ticket. You can unlock it without having to make the hard decision yourself, right? Maybe the answer is among the rank and file employees. Maybe they have an idea that could change everything, right? And it's so interesting you bring sports into the mix, because I think about leadership. I think about coaching. And quite frankly, everybody who is a capable entrepreneur, I won't say business owner, a capable entrepreneur, I'm good at making money. I've got good ideas. I'm good at helping people. I understand how to do that. They don't always translate into good leaders, right? And so when do you, or have you ever been in a position where you've had to say to the CEO, hey, listen, what you actually need is a different you? Does that ever come into play where it's like, you are so good, you need to be there to obviously find the next opportunity for us. You need to stay on. You're, of course, still owning the business and finding the ways to grow it, but you do not have a handle on this team.
Yeah.
And does that ever happen? And what do you do when that happens?
It happens a ton, right? There are entire books about this concept, right? The thing is, let's use one of the most commonly known books, Rocket Fuel, by Gino Wickman and a co-author, describes the two people at the head of a business, a visionary and an integrator. Or, to use more common business terms, a CEO/chairman of the board and a president of the company, right? One person goes after the next opportunity. The other person executes with excellence on the current opportunity. The one person, the visionary, is outwardly focused. The other person, the integrator/COO/second in command/president, all same terms for the same thing, similar terms for the same thing, focuses inward, and importantly, leads, manages, and holds accountable the team. Because typically, there are exceptions, but typically the visionary is not a good manager of people, right?
Yeah.
And or doesn't enjoy it, right? And why not have, as the manager of people, somebody who is good at it and does enjoy it? In fact, that's kind of your sacred responsibility if you're an employer,
Right.
is to give a person a manager who loves to do it and is great at, rather than a visionary who either is not good at it, doesn't like it, or both, right? And is going to practice, what Jay Wilkinson from Firespring calls the swoop and poop style of leadership.
Okay, interesting. There you go. I mean, it's fantastic though, because when you are working with these business owners and you're able to make them aware of maybe their own shortcomings, I mean, do you find that is a large part of your practice? That's a big room for personal growth for everyone. If you really want to grow as an individual, yes, maybe sharpen your strengths. Your strengths are strengths, and you can make them better, but it's all about working on your weaknesses, right? So is that a key part of your practice in bringing up the things that might be uncomfortable to talk about in order to work on it?
Absolutely. Business owners are going to come to me first wanting external growth. It's going to be one of three major things. I want predictable profit and cash flow, which is going to make the business easier to run, give me peace of mind. They want predictable revenue growth, meaning the size of the business is going to increase. We're going to go from 25 to 50, and it's going to be sustainable revenue growth. We're not going to grow broke.
Right.
And then they're going to want the really ambitious ones, want the third thing, the best thing, which is predictable transferable value. They view themselves as an investor in the business that they own, and they want to see the value of the investment go up so that they can do a wide range of things, which includes selling the business for sure, or keeping the business, but exiting from the business by exiting off the accountability chart. Installing a president, that integrator that I talked about earlier, right? And getting yourself completely off the accountability chart. So, and this is the really fun thing. You take everything that you learned at business number one, you take all of the abundant free cash flow that's coming out of business number one, and you use it to grow business two, bigger, better, faster, and more.
Right.
Now, that is a wild ride. All of that, though, Blake, doesn't address the self-awareness question, right? And so all of that was external growth. And so then there's the internal growth. And what I say by way of shortening the story is, if you want to 10x your business, you first have to 10x yourself. And 10xing yourself does start with self-awareness. What is my communication style? How do I show up as a leader? Do I myself behave in accord with the core values that I profess, right? Am I making the right decisions? Am I thinking comprehensively? Do I have all the clarity I need to be making all those difficult decisions? And then mindset. Do I have the right mindset to get past my biggest enemy, my biggest obstacle, which is myself? And fully live into and maximize the great opportunity and the great responsibility I have, which is to create, a company that escapes competition, because we create an entire new category. You know, we get out of this place of, just kind of treading water to be slightly better than competitors and slightly beat inflation into, what Dan Sullivan with Strategic Coach calls the $15 trillion free zone, where, you're collaborating with other entrepreneurs and other business owners to create entirely new industries where there is no competition, and you've just got unlimited freedom of time and money and purpose and relationship. That's what's really exciting. That is external growth. And in order to get there, you need the internal growth that goes all the way back, Blake, to what you were talking about with self-awareness.
Yeah, it has to be an interesting path that you take a business owner on, especially one who has blinders on. You are just so focused, nose to the grind, nonstop, because that's what it takes, man. That's what it takes to get there, right? So is it something you think is necessary to take every business owner from the point where we are so focused on the revenue growth, the profitability perhaps, and get them to understand their role as not just the entrepreneur, but the investor in their business? Do you think that's a necessity of every business owner that you work with?
I believe it's critical. 80% or more of your family's wealth is locked up in your business, which is a highly illiquid asset. And that's a fancy way of saying, Blake, if you wanted to sell your business right now, you probably couldn't. And if you did, you would get very little more than fire sale liquidation price.
Right.
Because most businesses aren't ready to sell. Now, here's the cool thing. When you work systematically on, number one, predictable profit and cash flow, number two, predictable revenue growth, and number three, predictable transferable value, you make your business sellable to where you even could sell it in the first place. And two, you increase the multiple that your business is going to sell for. And here's the other cool thing about it, right? As you're doing that, a lot of business owners who are thinking, oh God, I'm so exhausted from the 20, 30 years of biting, scraping, and crawling to get here. Man, I just want to be done with this. I want to sell it, have my big payday. They start having so much more fun inside a smoothly operating business that they say, I'd be crazy to sell this, right?
Right.
I'm going to step out of the day-to-day management. I'm going to exit the accountability chart. I'm going to use this to cash flow another venture.
Yeah.
And go have more fun and do it again. I wanted to riff, if I could, on something you said a little earlier with the path.
Please.
I'm glad you mentioned the path, because here's the thing about business success books, business success advice. Any successful person that you've seen out there and you want to emulate, this is the critical thing that you've got to understand. It's not going to work for you. Because you have a different starting point and you have a different ending point from then. The place that you started and the place that you want to go are different from theirs in so many ways, they can't even be counted. And you don't necessarily know all the ways that your situation is different from theirs. The advantages that you started with, the disadvantages, something as simple as the competitive environment in the region where you're trying to do business, right? You don't know quite how much different you are from them. And if you're like most business owners that I start coaching, you don't have clarity on where you want to go, right? Most business owners are like, I want to increase revenue. That's their goal.
Right.
And there's a whole lot of other things that you can do with your business that don't involve focusing on revenue growth as the goal. Revenue growth is what happens as a nice reward for doing other even better things.
Right.
Like increasing your freedom of time, money, purpose, relationship, and location. And so you often need outside perspective on, okay, somebody comes to me, John, Coach John, I really want to emulate this guy. Okay, great. Let's understand how different his starting point is from yours and how different their ending point is from yours. And let's customize a path, a journey that will work uniquely for you to get you from your point A to your point B. And you can get that customization in a number of ways. You can get it from an executive coach. You can get it from a peer group. By the way, every business owner should be in a peer group. Every business owner should be in a peer group. Every business owner should be in a peer group.
Yep.
Something like Vistage, something like YPO, EO, C12, right? A strategic coach.
Right.
There's no replacing the camaraderie and the commiseration and the fellow travelerness of somebody who has been there and thrown up that. And I'll tell a story. So business ownership is hard. How hard is it? Dry heaving at 5 p.m. on your cul-de-sac hard. Why am I dry heaving? Well, so a business owner one time was on a Thursday, realized that they weren't going to make payroll the next morning on Friday. And so they lived on a fairly well-to-do cul-de-sac. And so come the end of the workday, the business owner goes and knocks on all the neighbors' doors, asking for personal loans in order to make payroll tomorrow.
Yeah.
Man, nobody gets that feeling.
Mm-mm.
Nobody gets that feeling except a fellow business owner. So do yourself a favor and join a peer group. And if you can't find one that you like, start your own. There's manuals all over the interwebs that you can read on starting your own.
Gosh, it's a great point and great advice, right? To get help, obviously, from those who can best understand it. And you bring up so many good points, what you said. And, the way we first connected is obviously we both try to help business owners in different ways, maximize value in their business, create more intrinsic value in their business for when they come down to sell. And it's my worst fear. And I've seen it happen before where the business owner is so focused on the revenue growth, thinking that's going to end up being their answer to a higher sale value. And unfortunately, the business owner passes away unexpectedly. And now the family says, okay, well, we have this business, we're ready to sell it. And I've had to be a part of some unfortunate situations in which the $2-3 million payday they thought was coming their way looked like more like a couple $100,000. Because what is your business worth? What's in the store? Because you did everything before.
Yes.
There is nothing in place here. There's nothing of value. And I've actually had some conversations with individuals looking to buy businesses. They're sitting on a few $1 million they'd love to deploy, right? But the problem is they want to buy a business they don't have to devote 70, 80, 100 hours a week to.
Yes.
And you go look on, bizbuysell.com. Go ahead. Go do a search right now. I look at it all the time. Go tell me how many businesses you can buy on that site that are turnkey. That are just no problem. I'll show up. I buy it. I just collect the paycheck, make sure everyone's doing their job. I'm good to go. Cool. I can still take my vacation next month, right? I can be gone for a month in the Maldives, right? That's okay. Yep. No, absolutely not. That's not what most people have. And
right.
Because usually, to your point, once you have a business that is of that value, that has all those pieces built into it, why would I want to sell it? Mm-hmm. It's a beautiful thing, right? I enjoy it. Why would you want to get rid of it?
Right.
At that point? And you probably love what you do because all the people who are beneath you working for you and with you are a part of that and love it as well. It's all one big piece together, right? And gosh, John, I could talk about this forever with you, but we've already gone a little bit above what we try to keep it at. And for anybody who wants to learn more about what John does, the various topics we've discussed today, if you think that maybe you working with John could be something that benefits you, or you just want to, go get a coffee with the guy to see it and pick his brain, please don't hesitate to reach out. How can people get a hold of you, John?
The best place to find me is on LinkedIn. So John Fulwider, Fulwid as in Dave, ER. My website is gear80.co, gear80.co, and those are the two best places.
Awesome. And I hope that anyone who is listening to this, if you've resonated with these problems, if you think it's something that you're going through right now, I hope you can find some value in this. And I hope that if it's, maybe you don't reach out to John, maybe you don't think you're ready for those steps, maybe you're not trying to do it, but maybe you can take something from this that can help you improve the value of your business and in turn, the value of your family's lives and the lives in which you employ. Because if the business goes under, all those people lose their jobs. And I know that's something like, for instance, the story you told, business owners wrestle with every day, and it's a stress hanging over your head. So if that stress is hanging over your head and it's something that you're constantly at odds with, maybe that's a sign that it's time to change, because what you're doing right now isn't cutting it, because you're taking years off of your life living with that stress. It's stressful enough as it is. You should be trying to find new creative ways to solve problems like that. So, John, thank you for what you do. Thank you for coming on the show. And, man, I can't wait to have you back on again.
I enjoyed it. Thank you so much for inviting me, Blake.